Hi everybody, I'm Dominique Lovings. I'm here for St. Angeles and I am here with the Starks family. They're from Arkansas and they are an amazing black family of creatives that the world needs to know about. So why don't we go around and everyone introduce themselves.
Okay. I'm Jedediah. I'm a writer and a stylist.
I'm Denise. I'm Mom and I'm an interior decorator.
I'm Geoffrey and I'm an LA menswear designer.
So Mom, let's start with you. So give us a little history, like how did you get into interior designing and fashion and everything? Give us just a little history.
Well, I started in 8th grade as a little girl learning how to sew.
Okay.
And I would make my own clothes. And as time fast forwarded, I had children, I'd make their clothes. And also my mother believed in a clean house and a neat house. So that was something we did as my mom told us. So cleaning house and decorating became part of me. And everything has to be in place. And it makes the house look pretty. So my mom was part of my inspiration.
So from your mom, when you design and style everything in a home, do you take some of those key pieces when you're setting everything into place, or?
I do, because I was taught everything has its own place.
Okay.
And everything must be in order.
Okay. So for you guys, how did you pull that inspiration from your mother when it came to designing, styling, and everything? So give me a little.
Honestly, just sitting in fabric stores.
Okay.
She would make our clothes when we were smaller, so I remember looking at those fabric books, as that was all that was in there. So I remember looking at those and just also her telling us about imagination. Imagination can take you anywhere. So that's where the writing came from, and then the clothes we just picked up from her making ours. So that's the stylist.
Okay, and what about you, Geoff?
So what Jed said, well, it's us sitting in fabric stores for countless hours, looking at the pattern books, just to occupy ourselves. And then I think, as we got older, we kind of became a part of who we were, and that interest of going to the fabric stores, looking at fabrics and saying, Mom, hey, use this to make something from. And then beyond that, for me, just sitting on her pattern cutout board, or her board where she would cut patterns, not even knowing what was going on, but sometimes we don't know when, what's going on, but you're still heavily influenced by it. And I was always, an aspiring artist. I like to draw. And so I never felt like, I didn't know fashion was going to be, how I manifested my inherent creativity, because I also played basketball. And back then, I'm a jock. I'm not trying to sew, but she would always urge me, like, son, let me show you this or let me show you that pertaining to sewing. And I was just like, nah, I play basketball. And once I got into school and really studied art, it wasn't until college that I figured out, like, wow, art is my thing, and then design is my thing. It's kind of how it led into fashion.
So when you guys are in these fabric stores, because the how materials feel, it's like a key point. Because like I know it's like how I am, when I go shopping at some of these like trendier places, I'm like, oh, I'm not paying this much for that. Like that's like polyester or something like that's not as great of a material. So what are some of the key things that you look for? Because it's also when you put it on the body, how it makes someone feel. So what are some of those key things that you go for when you are looking for a certain material or look?
When you're in a fabric store, they have things separated according to texture, color.
Okay.
Like cottons are in one section, your linens are in another section, your polyesters, your gabardine, and you learn to use those certain fabrics to make certain things. Different fabrics make different things, and just depending on what you want to wear.
So as far as your interior design goes, what are some of the things, like do you have, like when you do your collections, do you draw like inspiration? Where do you draw those inspirations from? You know, like this pillow, like you know how you know what I mean. Like maybe you went somewhere and you saw something like, oh, I want to implement that into my collection. Like, so where do you draw that inspiration from? Since
Well, my family, I'm from a family of 6, and my family, my dad was the only one that worked. So the things that I liked, my parents could not afford. And I knew that if I learned how to sew, I could look at something and just make it. Usually when you see something in the shops or stores, patterns are probably there too. Patterns are never as expensive as the item itself. And you find that particular fabric and you make it. And most of the things I wore, I made.
So what about you, Geoff? You know, what?
Well, the fabric store is like a candy store to me.
Okay.
You know, and that's funny to say because back then it was dreadful. Like, oh my God, how much longer are we gonna be in here? But now it's like a candy store, and you know, I really have to control myself when I go in. Have a goal in mind, have an agenda, because I see why she used to be in there as long as she did.
Yeah.
Because you go in and as a creative person, you notice the colors, you notice the textures, you know, and then so many things are going through your head that you could do this with and do that with. So like you said, you have to go in there with an agenda. Am I making a suit today, or what's the color scheme of the collection? You know, what is going to be the fabric that I'm using for this collection, and really stick to it. Because you can get lost in that sea of fabrics, you know, and colors. So, you know, for me, it's just being, you know, staying focused and not losing sight of what I'm there for.
What about you? You're so quiet over here. Where do you draw that inspiration? Because you're like more into the styling and writing like
Right.
me.
Absolutely.
So like when I'm looking for new outfits or trying to come up with something, I dream a lot of things and never write it down. Terrible me. But like, what about you? Like, what draws you in? How are you styling somebody? Like, you know, do you see like a certain type of material or the cut of something, or you know, like a certain silhouette, and like, oh, you know what, you can rock this with like this. So what helps you?
Most of the time, what I tell clients is I don't want to change how they look. I don't want to make them look a certain way.
Right.
I want to take what they have and enhance it. Let's say for a season they want to wear Hawaiian shirts.
Okay.
I would take that and then I would enhance what I do with that. I always want them to know I'm not trying to change who you are, so that, you know.
Right. Elevate.
Yes,
Elevate.
correct. Yeah, good word. Right.
You know, I think too, I mean, just a common thing is that we're all affected by our surroundings.
Yeah.
And all of us always, like what mom does with the interior design influences what I do with fashion.
Right.
What she does with the interior design, it influences Jed with his styling, because it's all about color schemes, it's all about textures. You know, obviously, you know, the trend of the season plays a part of it, but you know, you also try to be original.
Right.
And you're constantly, as a creative, looking for places to find inspiration. You know, whether it be the greenery, you know, mom is always talking about how she loves the landscape here. So I can just imagine when she goes, you know, back to Arkansas, back to Little Rock, you know, you can never forget what you saw.
Right.
You know, that's one of the great things about a memory, you know, about just how we are as a human being, you know, and I'm sure she can implement that in the things that she's doing there in Arkansas. We are always influenced by what's around us.
Okay. So I want to ask you, because we've had so many conversations about who you worked under and how that played an important detail, and you always talk about, even being from the South, you know, about being dandy and dapper.
Yeah.
So give us a little history, you know, backstory about Geoff Duran, like how we got here.
Yeah. It's funny when I think back, because I can remember how mom would have me in the colorful socks before I even knew anything about dandy, right? The colorful socks, the colorful shorts, whether it be red, yellow, blue. Like I was kind of her not even guinea pig, but her canvas, if you will. You know what I mean? You know, when she had those inspirations, it's like, wow, like how can I let this out? Oh, my son, you know, so she would make clothes for us, like she said, and we were her canvas. And so that's where my first introduction to color and dandyism, you know, came into play. And I can't say that I always understood, but just going with what my mom said, you know, to me, to this day, is like, I'm glad I did that. I'm glad I listened. She always jokes and says, son, if I had put you in that, you wouldn't have wanted to wear it. But it's funny that how what she did back then, how it influences us now, and not even just the trend, you know, it's just kind of in us. You know, I always commend Jed because, you know, Jed has this personal style about himself that's you know, unapologetic. And it's like, wow, bro, like, you do that, you know, you rock that, you know. So it really all, you know, stems back to mom.
That's from her.
You know, be who you are. And, you know, that's how I design. And I think, you know, we can all agree that that's what originality is, and that's what really makes a brand, you know, have staying power and authenticity, is just the designer being true to who they are and where they come from.
Okay, so you too quiet, man.
Okay.
What's up? Like, let's talk.
I'm gonna talk to you.
Let's talk. What's
okay.
up?
Okay. I'm here. I'm with you. So I want to also say, I know you asked me in the last question about the writing. When he was talking about how you're influenced by the things that you see. At first, when I was, I remember in elementary school, I remember specifically, I came downstairs one day and I was wearing some outfit, and he asked me, he was like, "You put that together?" And I was like, "Yeah." And I didn't think anything of it. It was like blue jean on blue jean, and so I didn't think anything of it, denim on denim. And so when I play sports too. So moving forward, I was like, that doesn't really mean anything to me. So I started, I saw everybody else was creative, and that's what I think started the writing, because I wanted a way to express myself. I didn't feel like at first I was expressing myself through clothing. And so the writing is what allowed me to really express what I saw, the emotions that I felt, things of that nature. And so later on, as I got in school, people started to say, "Hey, you dress different, you dress weird," or, you know, and I was like, okay. And so, but being at home with them in the household, I didn't feel that it was weird.
Yeah.
So that's what kind of let me see, like, oh, it is different.
It's crazy because, like, I get so many compliments. Like, I steal everything out of my mom's closet. And, like, I give her, like, so much. I take everything, like, I'm like, okay, she's not wearing this no more. She's not gonna miss this. She got a million. She turned the dining room into a closet. So, like, I get so many compliments, like, "Where'd you get this or that from?" I'm like, "Oh, it was my mom's," or whatever. And I look back at old pictures and just how fly she, you know, was. Not that she's not fly now, but you know, like you said, like how you pull from your mom, and you just never know, because there'll be things that you're like, But I remember I had this corduroy, like, plaid skirt, and I rocked it with like some red, and it was like the colors in the skirt was green, purple, and it was like white. Of course, I go put some red like over the knee stockings with like a white patent leather like Guess shoe and like the vest over it. And everybody's like, that doesn't go together. I was like, but girl, you don't go together. Right. I look good and I feel good. I was just telling my homegirl last night, I was like, I think my style, like I'm a hippie at heart, you know, I got the crystals and everything. I just do whatever, but my style is definitely like runway. Like I want to go in, I want to kill it, I want you to stop, I want you to notice me, and it's just like it's also with that confidence too. So I will give my mom that credit. You know, I feel like I always I heard Tracy Ellis Ross talking about her and her mom's relationship, especially when it came to style. She was doing the same thing, you know, I was doing and pulling it and wearing it today, and just it's crazy just how like trends like continue to transcend and like repeat itself, and like how suede came in. I had so many suede dresses and
remember cross colors with the suede patches in the front.
And I remember we did not want to wear that stuff, and now here it is. I'm like, all right, Mike, you get one. But it's just, I mean, fashion, like I said, like it's so iconic. But you definitely, I think that what's missing nowadays when you look at influencers and a lot of these magazines, I think it's originality. Even like watching like a lot of the runway shows, I'm like, so who's gonna go and head Chanel after, you know, Karl Lagerfeld? Because everything is starting to look the same. He designed something for Fendi that he just reincorporated into Chanel. I'm like, really? Where do they do that? You don't have a team that's really like working with you? Like, nah, you know. But what I want to know is about you worked with a tailor designer. Give me a little backstory. Tell us about him.
God, first of all, let me say he was a godsend. And Mr. Kieki, I met Mr. Kieki, I think back in 2002.
Okay.
I was running a men's warehouse there in Little Rock, and everybody had been telling me, because everyone knew that I was a designer, and so they were like, man, you need to meet this guy, Mr. Kieki. And so I'm like, okay, all right, cool. So one day I happened to be in Dillard's is kind of like the Macy's or the Barney's in these larger cities.
Yeah.
And so he was working there, and I stumbled upon him and we started talking, and I remember saying, hey, I'm a designer. Everybody's telling me about you and how well you design, and how good of a merchant you are. Like, I just want to learn what you know. And so he said, I work here, so whenever you're here, come and talk to me. And it's totally not the answer that I wanted to hear, but I kept going back. And just to show you how God works, I kept going back, and eventually, once I started running the men's warehouse, we needed a tailor. Because he's a true designer tailor. I'm talking from scratch, since the age 12, right? He tells me these stories like, Geoffrey, I started out just on the cuffs, and then I started out, he's like, no sleeves yet. That's the last thing. It's the hardest thing. You don't sleeves and shoulders. That's it. That's the last thing. And so it was just funny listening to him tell stories about how he worked for his uncle. But anyway, so we needed a tailor at the men's warehouse. The DM came in and was like, hey, do you know anyone? And I was like, I honestly could not think of anyone. And so he said, well, I got a few leads on a few people, and he said, here are their names. And when he got down to the third one and said Vito Kieki, I said, him, that's the one. So I had the privilege to work with him over the course of about 3 years. He taught me how to fit, he taught me the inner workings of the garment, basically just kind of enhanced everything that I had kind of learned from my mom on a basic level, but made me understand why I was fitting it a certain way, what the alteration was and how he was going to do it. So I was able to fit everybody that came into the men's warehouse, while the tailor, and this is not even how men's warehouse does it, the tailor generally comes out and does all of the fittings. Okay. Well, to be a more efficient store, I felt like, hey, I'll do all the fittings, you just continue to do everything in the back, right? So I would fit everybody, take the garments back there, and we would make, I think the prices at that time in men's warehouse was you could get a suit anywhere from $300 to $700. We had people walking out of there with suits that looked like $2,000, $3,000. And that really, when I would step back and just think about what we were doing and how we were inspiring people, making people look good and feel good, I just would look at him in awe, like, Mr. Kieki, really? Like, how did you do that? So we really developed a tight bond, to where I would always go over to his house. His wife is an excellent cook. She would always make focaccia for me, make her own pizza. But yeah, he was a huge influence, in my life, and inspiration just in terms of, fashion and menswear.
How would that transcend over to you as far as the stylist go? Because like fitting and everything is like that key point. So how did that knowledge that Geoff probably talked to you about helped you in your everyday styling abilities?
Honestly, being able to study under him a little bit, him passing along how to fit, how to do some of those things. So even now, when like he has a client that's back home, I'm able to actually step in and do the fitting for them and be able to give him the measurements and things of that nature. So I think that's kind of how we get to tag team, and that's also something I'm still learning from him. I'm always learning. He learns a lot of those things, I guess I would say, before I do, because he's more on the front end doing the designing. And so on the back end, I'm able to kind of pick up some of those things.
Mom, I am very proud of my sons. You don't even have to ask the question. I am very proud of my sons. When they were born, It was one prayer I did. They're a big difference in age. It was one prayer I always said, and that was for the Lord to bless my sons to be God-fearing, prosperous men. And I see that, and I thank God for that. I'm grateful that He allowed me to be their mother. I put my desires on hold for them to have what they needed to be where they are today. And just to see where they are today, if the Lord don't bless me anymore, I'm good.
Well, since we're here, what have you learned from your sons? Because, you know, we always learn so much from our parents, but what is it that you can take away from them, especially being so hands-on and kind of going there in the same path as you were, you know, designing and stitching and everything? What's one of your takeaways?
Well, since they are now comfortable where they are, I am beginning again. I'm picking it up now and I'm going forward. So some of the things that they have experienced in this day and time, for me to be able to serve the public like I want, I'm listening to their tips, places that they go. They show me different things, how to do this, who to speak with, what to do, and truly the technology part of it. So that makes a big difference for me. And that's one of the biggest things that I've gotten from them. I mean, we share a lot. So a lot of things that they have learned, I listen to because this is their day. And I'm here, so I want to be a part of it.
Do we have a family collaboration happening soon down the window? Like,
maybe. Because I'm into interior decorating as well. And
so, you know, these guys gonna partner with you, and we're just gonna be at home featuring your boys.
Maybe.
That'd be really good.
Look, I'm gonna just say, because Geoff Duran is a lifestyle brand, it's only right, it's only fitting, no pun intended, you know, that we add an interior or a Geoff Duran home category. And, you know, we'll start out slow, but she's definitely gonna be instrumental in, you know, in that process. But yes, it's definitely coming. And Jed spoke to, you know, how we, you know, help out clients whenever I can't be there. He goes in and he can fit them for me. But like I said before, Jed has an impeccable style. And as a designer, you have a sense of style, but because you're so into the nuances of the patterns, making sure that the cuts are just right, and sometimes you're not thinking about what can be done with it.
Right.
You do think about it, but you know, a lot of designers have stylists, you know, even for their runway shows. They hire these big name stylists, they come in and they put the looks together for the fashion show. And, you know, I look forward to doing more with my brother, you know, and really, you know, incorporating a unique, you know, sensibility for the brand. I mean, I have my core aesthetics, you know, like you spoke about dandyism, urbanity, modernity, and masculinity, but I would love to add the flair that he has, you know, because in the South, we dress different, you know. We have our own flair, but being able to mesh, you know, Southern fashion and then being here in LA, give it a, you know, it just makes it unique, makes it fun, makes it creative.
That's something else I feel that we've gotten from her. So sometimes I kind of dress how I feel. And so something that I feel like we got from her is how it can make someone feel. And so the stylish part and the service part that she spoke of, like serving others, how I make them feel after I put something on them makes me feel good. And so it's just something that I was able to, I guess, harness to be able to know that it's style is what I want to get into. And so being able to fit up some of my friends at first, started styling them. And so the reaction that they would give, it's easy to me, but the reaction that they would give is like, man, I can't believe, you know. And so when I send them off or they go to a soiree or something like that, and they're dressed nice, I know it makes them feel good, and so when they feel good, I feel like they're able to give that off to others. So that's just something that I know that we got from her as well.
You know, it's something that, you know, I have a friend, you know, we talk about our inspirations and we, you know, kind of inspire one another. And one of the things that we talk about is serving with value. And I think that in any relationship, whether it be business, personal, you want to serve with value. You know, serving is not a submissive thing. You know, it's what we're put here on earth to do. And we all use our respective talents to serve. And for me in fashion, I want to, you know, excellence is one of the principles of my brand. And, you know, so I want to make sure that I'm serving with value. Anytime I meet somebody or have an interaction or a relationship, I want them to feel the value that I bring and you know, make them feel good, to Jed's point. So it's serving with value is what it's all about.
Tell us where we can find you all, like, you know, social media, websites, all of that. So where can we find you on the interwebs?
On the World Wide Web. So you can find me on Facebook at Geoff Duran. You can find me on Instagram at Geoff Duran, and that spelling is GeoffDuran. And also my website, geoffduran.com.
Well, Mom is not really into the big social media, but
We
can
gotta
find
get
me.
you.
It's coming.
That's
Yeah,
what
it's
they're
coming.
here for.
Yeah.
But you can always find me at Denise Starks at att.net, DENICE Starks at att.net, and Denise Starks on Facebook.
You can find me on Facebook at Jedediah D. Starks, so that's GEDIDIAH D Starks, STARKS, and on Instagram at Old Jed's a Millionaire. It's OLEGEDSMILLIONAIR, play off of Jed Clampett. Beverly Hillbillies.
And you can find me at St. Angeles on Instagram, and my website is saint-angeles.com. Thank you guys for tuning in, and thank you for spending your 4th of July holiday with me. We'll see you later.
Thank you for having me.